Hey Eurovision fans, it's Tom coming to you from Istanbul and I'm back for another Eurovision analysis video. Today I'm going to be going through semi-final number 2. I'm going to break down all the numbers, all the stats for you, tell you what the story of the semi-final was. I'm also going to talk about the 6 non-qualifiers and what they need to do to qualify next year. So let's kiki. Okay, so this is the second part in a 4-part series. I already did a grand final review where I kind of did a brief overlap of the standings. I also did a deep analysis video for semi-final number 1. I'm doing this, which is semi-final number 2, and then I'm going to do a deep analysis of grand final. So that video is coming up soon. I'm going to start writing it today. So first of all, let's go through the standings. Australia won the semi-final. Now, they are no stranger to winning semi-finals. They also won their semi-final in 2016 with Dami Im, and they won it in 2019 with Kate Miller-Heidke. So, and they came second actually with Sheldon Riley. So really, Australia are starting to write the rule book on how do you win a semi-final. That's crazy. 3 semi-final wins from 7. Australia, please help Ireland. We just want to qualify. We don't even want to win the semi-final. Please just help us out. You know, share some of the success in the semi-finals, please. Yeah, look, they didn't qualify 1 year with Montaigne. Technicolor, honestly, I just felt that year they kind of just wanted to skip, but they couldn't skip because they didn't want to lose their place because of all the COVID thing that was going on. Other than that, they've always been top 6 in the semi-final. So this is amazing. Televote only, winning the semi-final. And they did perform last, same as Finland, who won the first semi-final. So both semi-finals won by the country who performed last. And in case you're thinking that's something that happens a lot, surprisingly it isn't. Other than 2021 semi-final number 1, it hasn't happened all the way since 2011, so actually it doesn't happen that often. And this year it happened with both finalists. That might be because it's televote only. So second in the semi-final was Austria. This is their second best result. Conchita won her semi-final in 2014, but this is their second best result, so really awesome for Austria. They were only 12 points away from winning the semi-final. A lot of the betting odds before the competition had Austria and Australia at the top, so they got that correct. Okay, third place was Poland. This was quite a big surprise. She did really well. This is more than diaspora, unless there's been like this huge emigration of Poles that I'm not aware of, but she got points like across the board. This is Poland's first ever time in the top 3 of the semi-finals. I don't know if that's going to deter TVP from doing anything different next year. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, this is pretty successful for them, their first ever top 3 finish in a semi-final. Usually they're like in the bottom half of the semi when they qualify, like 10th, 8th, 8th, 6th, 9th, 6th. They're their previous qualifications. This is their first time even being in the top 5. Okay, 4th place went to Lithuania. This is their best result in a semi-final since Donny Montel in 2012, Love is Blind. So really, really great result for them. 5th place for Slovenia. Again, great to see them qualifying again after 2 non-qualifications in a row. This is their best result since Mariah in 2015, the girl with the headphones who opened up the final. Actually, it was a male-female duo, but 6th place was Brunette. Armenia actually have a really great record in their semi-finals. They've never been outside the top 7 in the semi-final when they qualify. Obviously, they've had those 3 non-qualifications in the past, although one of them was a televote qualifier. Emmy Boom Boom from 2011, which was one of my guilty pleasure favorite songs from 2011, actually did qualify with the televote, but the jury didn't like her boxing themed staging, which is just crazy. But in the 11 times that Armenia's qualified, they've always been in the top 7, so that's a really cool stat I didn't realize. Most of the time they get it really right. 7th place was Andrew Lambrew. So Cyprus getting right back on the horse after falling off last year. They had that 6 qualification streak, which ended last year with Andrew Mackey, and they're right back in it again. I think that was part of their strategy this year. They're like, we want to start qualifying as soon as possible. But Cyprus haven't been in the top 3 of a semi since Eleni Ferrer, and obviously we know how that ended, so that's got to be their goal for the next few years. Okay, 8th place was Belgium, and this is kind of weird because you very rarely have a country that does worse in their semi-final than they actually end up doing in the final, because obviously the final is more difficult, you got way more countries. Obviously part of that is the fact that he got a lot of jury points in the final, but really, really happy for him. This continues Belgium's streak of just kind of squeaking through their last 3 qualifications, 9th, 8th, 8th. So look, the Belgian team are so underappreciated for just doing what needs to be done to get across the line. It doesn't matter what it is, whether they need to jazz things up or change things or whatever, they make it work. The Belgian team are secret ninjas. But interestingly, with those 2 previous entries, Hooverphonic, The Wrong Place, and Miss You by Jeremy Macchiesi, those also didn't do great in the final. They came 19th and 19th, whereas Gustav was able to qualify, and then when he got the jury help, he really rose up the rankings. So really happy for him. 9th place was Albania, getting points from a lot of countries. I was thinking they would get some help from their diaspora, but the spread of points here looks like this was just really popular. That opening 30 seconds to the song is gorgeous, and the staging was very pretty and edited down. It all made sense. So really clever staging from them. And then in 10th place we had Estonia. Again, a little bit surprising considering that she ended up being top 10. A similar thing to Gustav. She had a lower ranking in her semi-final than she did in the final. Again, this is the effect of the juries coming in and loving her extremely high quality performance. So the closest person to qualification was Iceland. Now there was quite a bit of a gap. There's 30 points between Estonia and Iceland, so quite a jump. And then we have Georgia not too far from them, 11 points behind them with 33. And then we have quite a big gulf. The bottom 4 countries only getting 20 points, so Greece with 14 points, and really that 12 from Cyprus is cultural friendliness, let's say, because really across the board he got zeros and he had a good running order. Denmark was 6, they got those 6 from Iceland, so again the same thing. And then Romania and San Marino getting 0, but really that's a tiny bit unfair on them. If Romania had had Moldova, they would have gotten some points, so possibly a little bit luck in drawing here. If Greece hadn't had Cyprus, it's theoretical they would have only gotten 2 points, and if Denmark hadn't had Iceland, also possibly would have gotten 0 as well. So really Greece, Denmark, Romania and San Marino kind of as a group just not really hitting the mark. So this is the thing about the semi-final, it really was just 12 countries. So how many countries received points from everyone? Well, Australia did. They got points from all 19 people that they could. Same with Austria, so 1st and 2nd place getting points from everyone. Really strangely, the other country who got points from everyone was Estonia in 10th. This is such a weird thing. I don't know, I've never seen this before, that 1st, 2nd and then nobody else, and then Estonia at the bottom. They got points from everyone. It was a lot of ones, 2s and 3s, but they still did get points from absolutely everyone, all 19. If you remember in the first semi-final, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th all got points from everybody, so that was a little bit more very strong 5 songs. Here it was a lot more dispersed. Really the top 10, most of them were getting points from everyone, and again that is partly due to the fact that at the bottom we had those 4 countries getting almost nothing, so that really meant that there were only kind of 12 options to give points to. And then when you consider they can't vote for themselves, that's only 11 options, so basically they were giving points all to each other and then leaving one person out. Slovenia getting points from everybody but San Marino. I'm going to go into it later, but I'm pretty sure that San Marino is actually a jury, not a televote. Cyprus getting points from everyone apart from the rest of the world. Belgium getting points from everybody but Romania. Also, Poland got points from everyone but 2, as did Lithuania. So 7 of the countries getting points from pretty much everybody. And we can start to see that tail off. If you look down here, Iceland only getting points from 12 countries and Georgia from 10. So this is the thing I'm saying earlier, that really you have to have this broad appeal, that everyone is connecting with your song all over Europe. That is the best way to qualify. So from the semi-final, we had 3 countries come top 10. Belgium came 7th, Estonia came 8th, and Australia came 9th. So further emphasizing that this was kind of the weaker semi-final. From semi-final number 1, we had the 1st place, 2nd place, 3rd place, 5th place, and 10th place. So we had 5 from semi-final number 1, and then we had 2 automatics. We had Ukraine and Italy completing the top 10. So yeah, like this was definitely the weaker semi-final, and I've really noticed that in terms of just general interest. Any video that I've put up about semi-final number 2 has had around 40% less views. That's not just me, I looked at other channels as well, and also things like the running order being released. Just even that, semi-final number 2 had approximately 40%. It was like this general thing that just went throughout the whole season. So yeah, semi-final number 1 was the big guns, and semi-final number 2, yeah, still very high quality and much closer. I like that it was kind of like this fight between these 12 countries, but not having the same big draws, particularly televote draws, that the semi-final 1 had. We can also see that in the difference between 1st and 10th. So in semi-final number 1, the difference between 1st place and 10th place, Finland and Serbia, was 140 points. The difference between 1st and 10th place in semi-final number 2 was 75 points. So 140 versus 75. So yeah, a much closer affair in the second semi-final. We can see the semi-final was more spread out as well, from the fact that 12 different countries got 12 points, as opposed to the first semi-final where we only had 7. So a lot more countries getting 12 points in the semi-final than the first one. Okay, let's go through the countries who didn't qualify and just talk about them a little bit, what went wrong maybe and what do they need to do for next year. So in 11th place we have Iceland. Now obviously they got that 12 from Denmark, which was pretty delicious. If we look at top 3 placings in the semi-final, that was Iceland's only one, and if we look here we see that was also a pretty decisive thing. Estonia getting 3, Belgium, Cyprus getting 3, Albania getting 5. Everyone who didn't qualify getting 1 or 0. So that's, you need to be in the top 3 with some countries. Those are the big juicy points. San Marino giving it 7. Again, I'm pretty sure this is a jury. 6 from Georgia, 5 from Australia. So look, they did well. They got points from 12 different countries. That's not bad. I thought she absolutely performed her heart out. She was really, really amazing. We do need to keep in mind that Iceland only has, I think it's 370,000 people. So they punch above their weight so much. The fact that the Dati was 4th and Hattari, I think, were 10th or 9th. Yeah, Hattari were 10th and Sister were 23rd. Iceland do so well considering their population, and they keep up this national final. Honestly, I just felt the national final was very weak this year. So the fact that they almost qualified, they didn't really almost, they were 11th, but they were 30 points away, which is quite a big gap. Diliao put forward an amazing performance, really passionate. I actually think maybe she overdid it in the semi-final. She was trying so hard. She really was giving every single cell of her existence to try and qualify, and it maybe came across a bit too much. But look, she still did really well. I think she should be bright. I would love her to come back. I don't know if Iceland need to change anything. Like I said, I think they do very, very well considering their population, and they maintain this very good national final year after year. So yeah, they don't have to change anything. I still want them to win, literally the most. I want Iceland to win the most, more than anybody, more than Ireland, more than anyone. I want them to win so freaking bad. I have to go to Eurovision Iceland before I die. It is absolutely and utterly imperative to my existence. They will throw the best Eurovision. I know they don't have a stadium. They will build one. Literally everyone in Iceland will build it. These guys are obsessed with Eurovision. It's amazing. Okay, in 12th place was Georgia. I was really, really gutted about this. Look, there were some avoidable mistakes here. That second verse is, I think, literally gibberish. Yeah, I've seen her say in interviews that it's kind of gibberish. A lot of people had a problem with this lyrically, and especially that it sounded a little bit repetitive in the second verse and kind of didn't make sense. And that feedback was available, so I'm not sure if they heard that feedback and just ignored it, or there were legal reasons they couldn't change it. I'm not sure, but there really was an opportunity here to rectify that, and they didn't take it. Staging wise, I thought it was okay. I don't know if you remember my initial reaction where I was kind of disappointed with the staging, and I was such a huge fan. This was in my top 5. I thought the music video was absolutely gorgeous. I'm not sure if they had some financial issues that they weren't able to bring the dancers over. This staging didn't work for me. I'm pretty sure this was done by Marvin Dietmann, who is a very famous Austrian creative director. Correct me if I'm wrong if he didn't do it, but I'm pretty sure it was him. Yeah, this is just the feedback I've seen from a lot of people. Bit too repetitive, lyrics didn't make sense. I'm really, really sad for her. I thought she was really gutted afterwards, but this is 6 non-qualifications for Georgia in a row. I don't think Georgia are going to leave because, similar to Ukraine, I think Eurovision is a really important way for them to show off their cultural identity, which they're really trying to preserve. So I don't think they're going to leave. I don't want them to get beaten down so much. This is really terrible. I thought this was their year, and like, honestly, there's just some decisions here that I think if they'd made differently, they would have qualified. Which is weird, because if they would have qualified, logically they would have pushed Estonia out, and Estonia wouldn't have gotten top 10. So that could have really shaken up the final. Okay, in 13th place was Greece. I appreciate that Greece took a risk, but I just still think 16 is too young for anyone. Their brain is still developing, a lot of pressure to put on a young person. Plus, I think 99 times out of 100, a 16-year-old is going to be even better if you just give them an extra 2-3 years. If you put them there when they're 19, 20, they can still represent you amazingly, but it's going to be even better than when they're 16 because they're going to be more confident, they're going to have more of a sense of who they are and more experience. So look, again, for me, this is a little bit of decision making in Greece. I don't know what went on behind the scenes. There was a lot of drama, people suing each other and dodgy jury votes and lots of drama. So I'm hoping that they can clean things up next year and have a little bit more of a tidy selection process. Because yeah, really without that 12 from Cyprus, they got 2 points from Armenia. Yeah, this was a pretty bad result for them, especially considering Greece's pedigree in the competition. You know, this is only the 3rd time they've not qualified since 2008. 14th place, Denmark. Yeah, Denmark on a 3 non-qualification streak. Look, I think this would have done a little bit better with running order. I don't think it would have qualified. His vocals just weren't good enough. I don't know why they didn't plan the staging to have 2 or 3 people singing with him. I don't get that. I presume that Denmark has sufficient funds, they can fly a couple of people over. Staging that happened in Melody Grand Prix where he had the dancers, I thought that was really fun and cool. He had like 2 male dancers and 2 female dancers. I'm not sure why they got rid of that. Maybe it was a financial thing. Why didn't he have any backup singers? I thought the staging was actually kind of cool, although I kind of wished he'd done a bit more interaction with that prop. From what I've heard from Danish people here, apparently the Danish broadcaster just does not want to risk winning at all after what happened in 2013 when they won. So, you know, you can not win, but also qualify. Okay, Romania 15th. A lot of people thinking that possibly Romania are going to pull out. Really, they qualified last year, so it's not like they're on this big, long 10-year non-qualification streak or something. But yeah, it seems like the Romanian public is getting more and more disinterested and kind of fed up with the whole process. Please actually, if you're Romanian, let me know what is going to happen. I actually haven't heard any rumblings. Last year, a lot of it was because of the cheating allegations. I know they held a show on Romanian TV saying what's going to happen. Are we going to leave? There was a vote, which we all had to get on Twitter and start voting for them to stay in the competition, which was very stressful. Haven't heard any of those rumblings this year. But yeah, look, 0 points is not great. Obviously, if Moldova were here, they probably would have picked up something. They just need to look at what their strategy is going to be. If they're not willing to invest any money or resources or help to their act, then I think they need to choose a very specific act. Maybe they need to just choose a solo ballad that has very simple staging. They just need to be a little bit more strategic. If they're really constrained by finances, then think outside the box. Maybe don't hold a national final, go for internal selection, I don't know. But it seems like they really need to reevaluate what they're doing, because there's been consistently bad decision making now with Roxanne. WRS, from what I know, did pretty much everything himself. Theodore this year, as far as I know, was pretty much left on his own as well to do everything. So look, really a lot of these non-qualifications, there are like issues going on behind the scenes. In my opinion, there were like mistakes that were made, things that weren't done right. Apart from Iceland, I think Iceland was just one of their weaker years. But yeah, everyone else I think could have made changes, not necessarily that would have brought them up into qualifying, but that would have gotten them a better score than 0. Again, last place was San Marino, similar thing. National final, very strange, confusing to watch, very long and boring. 120 songs. Yeah, they just need to edit this. That final was just wild. I had no idea what was going on watching it. Totally random. And then after all that time, the results just splattered onto the screen. A TV presenter who just wouldn't shut up. Like, just, there's definitely things here that can be improved. Speaking of San Marino, there was a little bit of confusion about what would happen with their televote. Obviously, it's such a small country. They aren't able to have a valid televote because of that. I was actually talking to a friend of mine on Twitter, Stefan, and we were trying to work out, was the jury going to be used or was it going to be the aggregated televote? There were actually 2 different documents released by the EBU, one saying aggregated televote, one of them saying jury. In the end, I looked at the jury results in the final and they're really, really similar to the points given by San Marino in the semi-final. So it does look like the jury was used in the semi-final for San Marino. That's the same naughty jury from last year. So I think it makes sense to use real people rather than an aggregated result, which is just doubling up on points that are already given. Okay, let's talk about a big thing here now, and that is running order. So 4 songs qualified from the first half and 6 songs qualified from the second half. If you've seen my channel before, you know this is a pattern that has been ongoing since 2008. So in those 32 semi-finals, only 2 of them have had more songs qualified from the first half of a semi-final. Both of those were in 2018. We've had a couple that have been even, but the majority of them, there's more qualifiers from the second half. I did the numbers on the average rankings, and the average ranking, if you're in the first half of a semi-final since 2008, is 10, and if you're in the second half is 8.5, so between 8th and 9th. So look, that's quite a big advantage. Basically, you pull out a ball and you've just moved up on average 2 places. If you were 11th, you've just moved up to 9th on average. And then the percentage qualification from the first half is 42%. And the second half is 54%, and that other 4% is when the middle country qualifies, because obviously if you have 17 or 19, there's a country in the middle who's neither first nor second half. That's a 12% difference. So, you know, if you get drawn in the second half, you've got 12% extra chance of qualifying. Most of those numbers that I've gone through are televote and jury. I think that effect might be exaggerated even more by having televote only. I really do think that the EBU needs to look at what can they do to just help people out a little bit. This was why we needed juries in the semi-final, because juries really do counter that first half effect a bit. Let's look at this year where it was televote only. In the first semi-final, in the first half, there were 336 points, and in the second half, there were 669 points. So that's pretty much double. Now, I'm aware there was Loreen from Sweden, and Gary from Finland, and Noor from Israel, who ended up being first, second, and third. So there were some of the bigger countries in the second half of that semi-final. So that might distort it a little bit. But then when we look at the second semi-final, same thing. The first half had 421 points, and the second half had 737 points. So that's 75% more. And this is a trend that's gone through, like I said, those rankings and those percentages I said from previous years. It's really unfortunate that delegations can work so hard and then they're just pulling a ball out. They don't even get to pull the ball out themselves. They can't even blame themselves for it. It's some random TV producer pulling it out. You know, that's quite devastating. I don't think there's a perfect solution to it, but it would be nice to see the EB trying to do something to kind of counter that, to just make it seem a little bit more fair. I understand that fairness is not their top priority. It's a business, it's a TV show, they need numbers, they need income. Keeping delegations happy and audience feeling like things is fair is also kind of important, that the the show feels just and not that it's too much luck involved. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments. I think that the recaps should be much longer for the songs at the start of the show. I think it should be scaled so that the first song has the longest recap and then they get progressively shorter as it goes on. I think everyone in the first half should have an interview where they get to talk about their song and maybe a little bit of a plays or something like that. Another possibility is opening voting right at the start of the show. I'm not sure what the controversy about that is, but theoretically if you open voting immediately, you're going to get more money as well. So it kind of could be like a win-win situation. But yeah, I would like to see them maybe investigate it. They can use Junior Eurovision as a trial. Maybe that's something that they'll continue doing. But yeah, look, this is a big problem. First, second, third, fourth, and fifth in both semi-finals was from the second half. Australia, Austria, Poland, Slovenia, and Lithuania were all in the second half. Is that a coincidence? Could be. This is something I would just like to see a little bit more effort put into fixing. There was some happy news with the running order though. Armenia defeated the second running order curse. We actually had a streak of 9 countries not qualifying from second in the running order, including Malta from semi-final number 1. So that streak of 9 ended with Armenia. Really, really great to see that. It still doesn't massively sell it, as it's not like people are going to be fighting to get the second running order slot, but it's good to show that people can qualify from there. It's not instant death. We also had another streak end, so 5 non-qualifications in a row from the 5th running order slot. Both Portugal and Belgium both qualified, so they ended that 1-2 punch from Gustav and Mimikat. And on the flip side, we have a sadder streak. We had 8 qualifications in a row from slot number 8, but Victor Brunnikos ended that. He was the first person since 2018 not to qualify from slot number 8. Let's take a quick look at language. So languages did extremely well this year. If you look at both semi-finals, only non-English song that did not qualify was Theodore. Literally every other non-English language song qualified. This is incredible. Particularly in semi-final number 1, there was a huge amount of qualifiers. So again, possibly with Iceland, would Diljau have been helped a little bit if she had sung in Icelandic? I know personally I prefer the Icelandic version. I just love Icelandic. I think it's such a pretty language. That's 9 out of 9. I don't know. I think that's more than a coincidence, but that's really, really cool to see. People really do love seeing that cultural element in Eurovision. Let's have a look at the updated qualification streaks for everyone. So Belgium and Lithuania leading this semi-final with +3. Belgium, as said, on a great streak. I think this competition between the 2 broadcasters is really healthy because they're kind of competing against each other. They don't want to be like one sucky broadcaster and one great broadcaster. They're always like trying to one up each other. Sometimes that's actually good because it stops people getting too lazy or not coming up with new ideas. So I think we're going to the French broadcaster next. So interesting to see what they're going to do. I've already seen them having some rumored acts. They tend to internally select. I think Belgium are kind of exciting in Eurovision. I think they're very underrated. Lithuania also with a 3 qualification streak. This is because their new Pabando Mushnaho is really, really good quality, really stepping up the production of the show. I think Lithuania are going to make that breakthrough. They just need to keep going. This year was a little bit safe, but in general, I really like the direction that Lithuania is in. And then we have +2 qualification streaks for Australia, Armenia, Poland, and Estonia. Again, pretty solid countries. Interesting to see what are Poland going to do next year. Have they learned any lessons from this? Or are they thinking, we came 3rd in the semi-final, we came 9th in the televote in the final. This is great. Let's do this all over again. Like, honestly, if they really, really want someone, I just want them to internally select it. Don't put us through a national final and pretend it's democracy if you've already picked someone. It's fine if you've already picked someone. Just do an internal selection. Often delegations want to do a national final because then if the song does badly, they can't be blamed. Because it's like, oh, well, you picked that song, it's not our fault. So you can't have it both ways. You can't internally select an artist, put them into a national final, and then be like, well, if this did badly, it's your fault, you picked this. I would expect that a lot of Polish artists are going to be put off by what happened in the national final this year. If you've got like what you feel is a really, really good song, the national final is a great platform to show it off. But if you also feel like you're not going to get a fair go, are you going to want to apply? I don't know. Austria, Albania and Slovenia all on +1. They all broke non-qualification streaks. Austria had a 3 non-qualification streak which ended. Really happy about that. Excited about their trajectory. Loved Halo last year in terms of how daring it was. This year as well. I'll talk a little bit more about Austria in the final, about what happened with their televote and etc. And then we have a -1 streak for Romania, Iceland and Greece. Greece had a 3 qualification streak which ended. So did Iceland. Also, they were also +3 before this. And Romania only -1. So this isn't the end of the world for Romania. They did qualify last year. They aren't doing as badly as you might feel. I felt like they were doing worse, but -1 isn't that bad. San Marino with -2, I do think they need to shake things up a little bit. I think they should go internal selection, and I think they should be nabbing artists from San Remo, but that's just me. -3 for Denmark. There's a lot of Danish commenters saying that they're disappointed with how their broadcaster is managing the whole thing and they need some changes. I feel like Denmark is kind of becoming what Ireland was a little bit. I'm getting those vibes of we don't really want to qualify that much, doesn't really bother us. I don't feel a strong plan coming from the Danish broadcaster. And then obviously Georgia with -6, really sad for them. I love how out there and dangerous and risky they can be, but yeah, some of this decision making is not great. So really want to see them turn around. This is my #1 wish for Eurovision 2024 is that Latvia and Georgia qualify. That's all I want. And I want Iceland to win as well. But I feel like asking for Iceland to win is quite a big ask. I feel like asking for Georgia and Latvia to qualify is not much to ask for. So who was the bellwether country for this semi-final? It was Spain. So Spain guessed all 10 qualifiers correct. And what was my favorite points in this? I don't know why, but I really love this 12 points given from Belgium to Armenia. There's not an extremely obvious connection between Belgium and Armenia for me. Maybe Gustav gets his hats from Yerevan, I don't know. I'm sure someone will tell me about a connection I didn't realize. I also like it because Armenia were second in the running order. So I love this idea that Belgian people tuned in really early, very well disciplined, very well behaved. They were there in time to watch Brunette's show and they thought it was beautiful and they gave her 12 points. Okay, so that's some of the things I thought about semi-final #2. Let me know if you noticed anything else. You can leave it in the comment section down below. I'm going to start writing my grand final analysis where I'm going to compare the jury and the televote and what happened, and I'm going to speak about Australia and why their televote went down. Okay, I want to give a couple of shout outs. Thank you to people who've been supporting me on Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you to Alex Basmati, another someone, but the second someone is from Norway, Derek P, Dave, Johan R, Stephen L, and Eamon M. And also some shout outs to people supporting me on PayPal. Thank you to Renata, who I met in Liverpool, who was really lovely. Nina K, Mitch G, Jacek M, Andrea M, and Elizabeth E. I'm not saying people's surnames because they might not want their surnames said. And I have a couple others to do, but I'm going to do that with my final video because I need to update my spreadsheet to make sure that I'm saying everyone. Thank you so much for your support. It's hugely appreciated. Obviously, it's keeping me going right now. And thank you to everyone who watches and comments. And you don't have to comment as well if you don't want to. I know lots of people like watching videos and not commenting. That's absolutely fine. If you do have a comment though, please leave it for me in the comment section down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And thanks so much for watching. I'm seeing another Eurovision analysis video very soon. Goodbye. Blah, 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 blah.